Welcome back to Maths with Armien. This is part 3 of 3, the last part of finance videos. And in this video, we're going to look at deferred annuities and sinking funds. Let's look at what we're going to do in this video. There are 5 units here. Firstly, we're going to look at the concept of a deferred annuity. Then we're going to do some examples or problems on deferred annuities. And then we're going to look at the concept of a sinking fund, and then some examples on sinking funds. And then, as usual in all my videos, we have an exercise worksheet. Let's start. Let's look at the deferred annuity concept. Let's use an example to illustrate this concept of a deferred annuity to you. Let's say there's a loan that's taken out. You got a loan that's taken out and there's equal monthly payments, and the payments are made at the end of each month. But here the first payment is not at the end of the first month, but the first payment is at the end of the third month there. Okay, so there's a difference. Normally the payment is at the end of the first month, so there is some delay in payment, and here the delay we've heard the payment is actually deferred. So let's say the loan is Y Rand, and there's 24 equal payments being made, and the interest rate is I%. Let's just use a timeline to illustrate this to you. So there we have our timeline. Don't worry about that 26. We'll explain to you where the 26 comes from. So normally when you take out a loan, the first payment should normally be there. But now they say the first payment is delayed. Instead of the first, second, third, the first payment is only taking place there. So in other words, payment number, there's no payment after the end of the first month, no payment after this. So there are 2 payments that are not being made, and then the payments start, right? So it's actually 2 payments that are deferred. The payment should have been there, so they've actually deferred it until the end of the, in other words, delayed it until the end of the third month. So there we have the first payment is deferred or delayed by 2 months, right? You can say delayed as well, and then we start making the payments again. But you see, the question here says that it has to be 24 payments. So although you miss the 2, in other words, you start making the payment, you'll have to now go up to the 26 months, right? Because you still have to make 24 payments there. So there's all these payments from number 5 to 25, and then you have your payment number 26. Let's look at this example in a little bit more detail. You see there we have a timeline. I'll just put the timeline down here. So there's no payment after the end of the first, no payment after the end of, but while no payments are being made, this loan amount, this amount here, the original amount there grows. It grows compoundedly, right? So in other words, there's some growth taking place. And for how many months? There's 2 months that it's growing, because you normally would have 1 month at the end of the first month. So there's that little gap that we have there. So it is compounded, and then for 2 payment periods, and then your payment starts at the end of the third month, the end of the fourth, and then etc., until you come to the 26 there. Now, to work out, because this is a loan, we're going to have a present value. But now instead, this present value, this original amount that you had here, let's say this was 100,000, then this is not 100,000 anymore. So that new amount, because it has grown, will be that value for P. And then as usual, you can then calculate your X value if that is required there. So this is the effect of the deferred payment. So when you actually defer a payment, you know, there's a growth of the loan that's taking place. Let's also look at it graphically. You know, if you take a normal ordinary annuity with no changes, you make all your regular payments as agreed in the loan, that is the situation you get, and this line here would represent your outstanding balance. Let's say after the 15th payment, your outstanding balance would be that amount there. After the 24th payment, your outstanding balance is 0. But if you look at the deferment, you can see for 2 months you have not made any payments. So during those 2 months, your loan amount has grown. There's a compound growth taking place, right? So then, and this blue will refer to the deferred annuity graph there. So there you have the growth, and that will be the present value 1 plus I, and it's for 2 months. That's to the 2. You just have to put that as I, whatever the interest rate is there. And so that will, so you calculate your present value after 2 months, depending on the compound period. This is monthly. That will be I over 12. And then on the end of the 3rd month, then you start making your payments. And as you can see there, you missed 2 payments, but you still want to make 24 payments. So instead of ending on the 24th month, you'll end on 26 months later. And that is your deferred annuity graphically. Let's look at an example. We have a loan, and this loan is taken out of 24 equal payments, right? And at the end of each month, the interest rates. Now here we have a situation where some payments are missed, right? You carry on normally, but up to number 15 were no problem. But payment number 16 and 17, due to some financial reason, were missed. And then you resume your payments again at the end of the 18th month. But the agreement now is you've missed those 2 payments, and you agree to repay now such that your monthly payments will be increased for the remaining number of periods. In other words, you're not going to go up to 26. You still want to stick to your 24-month agreement, but now it's going to be for the remaining number. So we'll have to calculate the remaining number of payment periods there. So you can see there, that is the amount of the loan. There's 24 there. The interest is I, and it's compounded monthly. And there's at the end of the 18th month, you start making your payments again after missing. So let's look at this on a timeline, just to show you the difference here. You see, there's your amount. You make all your payments up to the 15th payment, no problem. But now payment number 16 is missed. Payment number 17 is missed, right? And then on the 18th, you start making up. So there are 2 payments that are missed, right? And then you start making the payments from the 18th, and then you continue up to the 24th, right? Because you're going to pay more now. You could have new payments. So there are 15 payments here, but these are going to be new payments to make up for the 2 months that you missed there. And we'll just look at it graphically again to get a better understanding. Let's look at our timeline again. You see there we have there, and as we agreed, that will be up to 24. So for the 15 payments took place normally, right? So there's your 15 payments being made up to the 15th, right? But then payment number 16, in other words, when you get to that point, you stop paying. But you have a balance there, and that balance will grow. It will grow compoundedly. For how many? How many payments were missed? 2. So there are 2. So it will now, first of all, we need to work out what is that balance when you made your last payment. That was payment number 15. But that outstanding balance now doesn't stand still. It's growing. So for 2 months it has to grow. So whatever balance you had there has to grow for 2 months, and that's I over 12 because it's compounded monthly. And then you start making your new payments, right? You carry on payment number 18, 19, 23. You don't add another 2 payments in there because you want to stick to the original 24 months there. Okay, so that will be an increased payment, and then you can, because this is a loan, we'll use a present value. So first of all, you have, after you've worked out your outstanding balance, you'll work out the growth of that outstanding balance, and you'll use that outstanding balance now will be your present value. See the present value there? This is your new present value there, right? So we'll have to get the outstanding balance, have the growth of that outstanding balance, and then we can work out what the new payments would be. Let's also look at it graphically, maybe give you even a better understanding. So you can see there's your normal. You see, you know your normal payments until you reach payment number 15. Up to number 15, no problem. And then you missed 2 payments. You see it there. You made your payments as usual when you reach 15. Now here we have a problem occurring. Payment number 16 and number 17 were missed, right? So you need to know what is that balance. We have to calculate the balance here, because that outstanding balance now will now grow for 2 months, and then you'll make your payment on the 18th again there, right? And then you'll still try to stick to your original agreement of over 24 months. So there you have to find that outstanding balance after the 15th payment. There's the payments being missed, as you can see there. Then we have here, we'll have to work out that present value after 2 months. You have to compound that growth there, and then you can start calculating the new payments, and the new payments will start from the 18th. So there'll be payment number 18, 19, 20, 21 up to payment number 24, and there'll be new, you can see the payments there will be different amounts there. Let's just summarize what you have there. A deferred annuity is actually an annuity where the first payment begins at a future date, right? Or where the payments or deposits start in more than one period from the present. Instead of starting at the end of the first month, it can start at the end of the third or the fourth, whatever the agreement is. They're not necessarily at the, for then we say it's a deferred or a delayed. That's taking the payments are deferred or the payments are delayed. In the case of a missed payment, when you have missed payments, you'll have to work out the outstanding balance after you made your last payment before you start missing. And that outstanding balance will then grow compoundly, right? And it depends how many payments you missed. If you missed 3, you'll have to compound it for 3 of those payment periods. If you missed 5, you'll have to compound it for 5 of those compounding periods. And then you can recalculate the new payments there. Now let's start applying these concepts of deferred and missed payments, and we're going to have 2 problems on deferred annuities. Let us consider the first example. Brenny took a loan for 44,800 Rand. He took it out on the 1st of January 2020. Right, he takes the loan, he's taking it out on the 1st of January, and he's going to make equal payments at the end of each month, right? So that's an ordinary annuity. And his first payment is delaying his first payment there until the 1st of April. His first payment was supposed to be at the end of 1 month, would have been the 1st of February, right? 1 month later, right? But now there's a deferred payment there. There's the loan amount, 44,000. He's making 24 payments, right? And the interest rate is 12%. It's compounded monthly, 12% over 2. And we have to take note of this deferment there, right? We'll look at it in the next slide and show you exactly how we can work out. You can see he's missing February. He's missing March. So there's 2 months that he's missing there. Then he starts only paying this. So there's a deferment of 2 months there. So we'll then have to work. So we have to find the value of the loan. You can see on the 1st of March, right? And then the value of the monthly payment. So let's look at it in the next slide. From the previous slide, we have all the information. There's the 44,800. There's 24 months. It's 12% over 12. And we want to eventually work out that new payment, the monthly payments here. So let's see. First of all, the first question says calculate the value of the loan on the 1st of March. So this loan amount, because there's no payment, there is compound growth taking place, right? So we have to take that I, we have the I value, which is 12% over 12, and it's been deferred for 2. That's why we have 2 up there. So that's to the 2. So the loan amount has actually grown from 44,800 to 45,748, right? So that's the value of the loan on 1st March 2020. Now we want to know what will the value of the monthly payments be. Now we can calculate the monthly payments. It's a loan, so it's the present value. We've got all our information there. We then substitute. So now I don't put in 44,800. There was a growth taking place, so we put in 44,748 cents, and now we can work out the X. We've worked out payments before. What do? The 44,748 will have to be multiplied by that, and then we divide. So let's see. So first of all, the 45,700 is multiplied, and then we divide by this factor. And then just be careful with your calculations, and that's the monthly payments now, right? Because of the deferred payment, the monthly payment is now 2,151 Rand and 28 cents, right? So that 44 is not 44 there because there's been some compound growth that took place there. Now let's look at an example of MIT's payments. Vuyo took out a loan, and she agrees to make equal monthly payments at the end of each month. But due to some financial difficulties, Vuyo missed payments number 31, 32, 33, and 34. She resumed her payments at the end of the 35th month, right? And she agreed to increasing her monthly payments for the remaining number of payment periods, right? We'll come back to that again. So she took out a loan for 150,000. So that's my present value. She's making 60 payments. That's the N equal to 60. 3,809 is my monthly payments. Interest rate is 18% compounded monthly, so that's 18 over 12, right? There's 4 payments that she missed. See, there's the 4 payments that she missed. So we will, first of all, we have to work out, here's some questions here. We look at that questions. So you can see she missed 31, 32, 33, and 34. So then she resumes again at the end of the 35th. So there's 4 payments that she missed, right? But she agrees to increasing her monthly payments for the remaining number of payments, right? And what do we mean by the remaining number? When we answer these questions, we're going to look at that again there. Let's look at the first question. So there we've got our information there again for us to refer to in case we need that. These are the values that we extracted from the given information. So we want to calculate the outstanding balance. How do we work out outstanding balance? After the 30th payment, because the 30th was the last time she paid. And then the money is going to start growing. So we want to first of all know what was the balance after she made her 30th payment. So first of all, we have to get the growth of the money. So the growth of the 150,000, that grows, and it's for 30 payments, so that's 30. So that 150,000, the growth there was 234,462 Rand and 3 cents. Then we want to see what is the future value of all these payments of 3,809 that she has made, right? And also for 30. So we substitute that in the future value formula. And there we have the value, 142,984.84 cents. Then to get the outstanding balance, what do we have to do? That's correct. We subtract the 2 amounts. And if I subtract that, so the outstanding balance is now 91,477 Rand and 19 cents. That's the outstanding balance after 30th payment, right? So that's the first stage of our problem. Now let's look at the next question. So we're just transferring that outstanding balance after the 30th payment. 30 payments were made. The interest rate is still the same. She missed 4 payments. So let's see. Calculate the value of the new payments. Now this outstanding balance there, for 4 months she did not pay. So this outstanding balance will have to grow. There's a compound growth taking place. So first of all, before we can work out the payments, we first of all have to work out the growth of that 91,000. So that 91,000 and it's 4 months she hasn't paid, so there's growth for 4 months, and that gives us a new present value there, which is 97,090 rand and 56 cents. Now this is a loan, so we use the present value formula. There's the present value formula, so we substitute. But now let's work out the end value. You see, the loan agreement was 60, she already paid 30, and then she missed 4, so there's still 26 more payments left. So our end value here would be 26. Let's go over that again. It was 60 payments, 30 payments she made. She missed 4, so there's still 26 left. So the end value there, we have to substitute the end value. And by now you should know to work out the X. It's quite a basic calculation, should be by now. So it's the 97,000 that we multiply by the interest rate, and then we divide it by this other factor that we have there. And be careful with your calculations. Maybe try to do it twice, and please don't forget that negative sign in there. And therefore new payments is now, so you can see for her to make up the payments that she missed, instead of paying 3,809, she now has to pay 4,537 rand and 23. Then she can still finish everything at the end of the original 60 months there, right? So the payments there from 3,809 has now increased to 4,537 rand and 23 cents. Now I want to look at another finance concept, and this is the concept of sinking funds. To illustrate this idea of a sinking fund, let's consider the following example. Let's say a company or a person has a vehicle, and let's say that vehicle presently costs 150,000 rand. So, or a machine, could have been a machine as well. Okay. Now, after 4 years, will the vehicle still be the same? Right? If I want to buy a new vehicle after 4 years, the same type, will I still pay the same 150,000 for that same vehicle after 4 years? No. That's right. That vehicle will increase in price, right? So instead of 150, let's say it now increases to 250,000. What is actually happening there? That's right. It's due to inflation, right? So after 4 years, going to buy a machine, that similar machine won't cost there, it will be inflation involved, and that will be the new inflated value of that machine. But this car that we presently have there, in 4 years time, if I want to find the value of that car that I'm using or that machine that I'm using in 4 years time, will it be the same value? No, this won't be 150 anymore. It's going to, what's going to happen? That's right, it's going to depreciate in value. Can you see there? And the depreciated value is now not 150. You see, it's getting a lot smaller. So, and this here is because of depreciation in value there, right? And in this case here, it was reducing balance method that we used. Now, if I find the difference between that amount and that, the inflation value, and this is known as the sinking fund, the difference between the inflation value and the depreciation value, that's the inflation. You know, if we have a business, right, quite often in businesses they have a machine, and that's a very important machine that they actually need, right? Now they want to plan ahead, so they know that machine in 4 years will cost more. Their current machine in 4 years, they can maybe sell it, but they'll be able to sell it for less. So to buy the new machine, they can use that value that they get for that old machine, subtract it from the value of the new machine, and that will be the sinking fund. So they have to plan ahead. In this case, their sinking fund would be 200,000 rand. So they want to plan ahead 4 years in advance, so that when it comes to the end of the 4 years, they can buy the machine and they would have that 200,000 rand available. And that's the whole idea of a sinking fund. Let's go over that again. So a sinking fund is actually a savings fund or plan that is set up to make provision. You you provide for in advance for a future purchase or projected costs by means of regular fixed amount deposits over a period of time, right? So remember the previous case. So we have to now plan for that 200, the difference between the inflation and the resale price of the machine or vehicle, and that will be our plan. We want to plan ahead 4 years in advance and see what should the fixed amounts be that we have to deposit regularly. Let's look at the procedure for calculating a sinking fund. Step 1, calculate the projected inflation value. What do we need there? The compound growth formula. Then step 2, we have to calculate the projected depreciated value. There we use the reducing balance, the DK depreciation formula. And then to find the sinking fund, it's the difference between those two values. So it's a projected inflation value minus the projected depreciated value. And there we have the compound growth minus the DK that we have there. And that's a procedure we'll follow for working out sinking fund. Sometimes you are asked to work it out step by step, or sometimes you can be asked just to calculate the sinking. Then you have to know that you have to use these two procedures. Now let's apply the concepts to doing some sinking fund problems. Let's look at our first example on sinking funds. A company bought a new machine, right, for $150,000, right? But decided to replace the machine in 6 years' time, right? The machine depreciates, right? And the replacement cost of a new machine will increase, right? So let's look at some values here. We have the new machine costs $150,000, and the rate of depreciation is 15%, but the increase is at 7.5% per annum. So the inflation is 7.5%. And the reducing balance, so be careful that you don't mix up that 15% and that 12% there. So be careful with that. Don't mix up that 15% and that's the 15% is for the reducing balance. The 7.5% is for the increase or the inflation. In the next slide, we'll actually look at the solution, but it's important that you just highlight the important, try to understand your question. You don't have to go and read everything there. You can see I sometimes skip a number of words because I'm just focusing on the more important. Now let's look at the solution of the example. Those are the values that we extracted. P is equal to 150,000. There's going to be 6 years. The depreciation is at 15% and the inflation is at 7.5. I put them in two different colors so we don't get mixed up. Depreciated value, I use my reducing balance formula. Substitute the 150,000 and be careful to put the correct percentage in there. In this case, it's 15% to the 6. And we get that amount is 56,572 Rand and 43 cents. Then we want to work out the expected cost. That's the growth. And the growth there is going to use my compound increase there. So it's 150,000, and here be careful that you use the correct percentage for this one. And there it is 346,959 Rand and 12 cents, right? Now we can work out calculate the amount of money it would need to purchase a new machine. So this is the sinking fund that we have to calculate, right? So the sinking fund is the difference between the two. And if I calculate that difference, so the amount that will be needed would be 290,386 Rand and 69 cents. The difference between the growth and the depreciation. Now let's look at this example. We have a company who bought a new truck, right? And this truck depreciates on a reducing balance, right? The cost to replace the truck increases. Right? The truck was bought at 2.5 million Rand. The depreciation was at 12.5%. The inflation was at 8%. And now they tell you a sinking fund adds 10% per annum compounded monthly. That's the interest rate. And we want to do the following questions there. be careful. As you can see, there are 3 percentages. So you know that 12,5 must be used for the depreciation, that 8% must use for the inflation, and the 10%, that's the one we're going to use for calculating the monthly payment. So we have to be careful with this. Okay. You can also see in this question here, they ask you directly calculate the value of the sinking fund. So you need to know your procedure here. Now let's look at the solution. Okay, so calculate the value of the sinking fund. So first of all, we have to work out the projected inflation. So there we use the compound growth formula, and it's the p-value is 2.5 million. Just be careful. And then the interest rate for inflation is 8%. Be careful that you don't use the incorrect interest rate there. So that's 8%. And then if we calculate that, that gives me 3,967,185 rand and 81 cents. Next, we have to work out the depreciated value. So there I use the reducing balance formula, and there it is 13.5%. So I'll be careful that you use the correct percentage. That's at 13.5%, and that gives us 1,047,260 rand and 93 cents. Now to get the sinking fund, it will be the difference between the two. So I have to just be careful that you use the two values correctly. Subtract the two. So the sinking fund is 2,919,968 rand and 88 cents. Now let's look at the second part of the question. The second part here wants us to calculate the value of the monthly payments to be made into the sinking fund. So that's the future value that we have here, 2,919,968 rand and 88 cents. So I use my future value formula, and here the sinking fund's interest rate is 10% compounded monthly. See, be careful that you do not use the wrong interest rate there. And we want to find the value of the payment, so that's X. I put, there's my future value. Make sure it's the future, not the present value. We do a direct substitution, and calculating value of X should now be easy. So it's the 2.9 million, which we multiply with that 10% over 12, and then we divide it by this factor next to the X, and that gives me our X value. So in other words, they have to make provision every month 29,761 rand and 80 cents, and if they do that for the 60 months, they will have exactly that. They'll have enough to buy a new car, right? Using the new truck, using the old truck's trade-in value as a sort of a deposit there. And that is all the examples. All the other examples that you can get will be very similar to this here. Now we come to the most important part, and this is the exercise worksheet where you get a chance to practice this. As before, I suggest you go through the videos again, try to do the problems on your own before you try these examples here. This one. So there we have a question. You have to work out this question here has to do with after the loan was taken out. So this is a deferment question. And then here again we have where some payments has Tim starts paying at equal month. You see, instead of starting on the 1st of February, you're starting on the 1st of August there, right? So there's also a deferment question there. And now we have another deferment question. And here there are some missed payments involved there, right? So something similar to what we've done. And now we've got some sinking fund question. There is a sinking fund. They guide you step by step, right? And here we have another sinking fund question. Value of the sinking fund. And here we've got quarterly deposits, not monthly. Just a slight change there instead of monthly. Thank you for watching this video on finance. I hope you benefited from it. There are other views. If you have missed the others, is part 1 and part 2. There are also other videos on calculus. There are actually 5 calculus videos, and there's also one video on inverse functions there. There'll be more grade 12 CAPS mathematics topics coming very soon. I would be appreciated if you could have subscribed to my channel, Maths with Armien. Thank you very much.